it. There isn't any evidence that show that there is a correlation there between pesticide residue and cancer risk. But with that said, you still don't want to eat more pesticides or do more hormones. So we've created this list based on the literature. The Dirty Dozen are the 12 fruits and vegetables that have been shown to have higher levels of pesticide residue despite washing. So those would be the 12 that I would recommend that you purchase organic. And then I have the least contaminated on the bottom there. Keep in mind that even if you're purchasing organic, you still want to wash it really well. It doesn't mean that it's clean or without any bacteria. This list is out on the table out front. I put this little cartoon in there because people are always trying to find ways to count something as a fruit or a vegetable. I think this is a little bit of an exaggeration, but once you do that diet recall, you'll be able to identify how frequently you're getting in your fruits and vegetables. My patients always ask me about fat, so I like to talk a little bit about that. Keep in mind that a fat is a fat is a fat. It's kind of like a Toyota and a Subaru. They're still both car makers. So a fat is still a fat. There is a difference between a healthy fat and a bad fat. A bad fat has a chemical structure that causes harm in the body. So that's your saturated fat. And your good fat or your healthy fat has a chemical structure that doesn't cause harm in the body. But they're both still fats, and what that means is they both have a lot of calories. So if you're overeating on your calories, you're going to gain weight, and that's a risk factor for disease. And so trying to limit the amount of fat that you eat, choose the good fat, the healthy fats, the unsaturated fats the majority of the time, and that would be your olive oil and your canola oil, and then choose or limit your saturated fats. But overall, you want to limit your total intake of dietary fat. A couple questions. Are foods labeled trans fat-free always healthy? Not necessarily. They could still have a lot of fat in them and be really high in calories. Are foods labeled fat-free, calorie-free? Absolutely not. They could add more sugar to things, and they could still have actually more calories than the comparable product that has fat in it. And do all fats have the same amount of calories? I talked about that at first. I have a lot of patients who are trying to lose weight. They're going through cancer treatment. They're tolerating their treatment. They're not having any side effects. And they're a little overweight, so they want to reduce their risk of getting a recurrence. And so they're choosing all of the healthy foods. They're putting avocado on things, and they're putting nuts on things, and they're doing sunflower seeds, and they're using olive oil. But they're still overeating because they're not measuring their portions or monitoring their portions. So the recommendation to limit total fat calories is less than 25 to 35% of your total calories in a day. So if you take your weight, your current weight, and you divide it by 2.2, that gives you your kilograms. And then you multiply that by 25, that would be your total calories. And then if you take 25% of those calories, those would be your fat calories in a day. You want to limit your saturated fat. You want to really avoid the trans fats, limit it to less than 1% of total calories. The remaining sources of fat should be unsaturated and polyunsaturated. Has everyone heard about omega-6s and omega-3s? Okay. So both of those are your essential fats, which means that your body cannot make those on their own. You have to consume those fats. And so that's what makes them essential. The American diet is really high in omega-6s. Omega-6 comes from your corn oil, your sunflower, your safflower oils, and it's an essential fat, but we actually tend to overeat on it because it's in all of our packaged foods and our products. Omega-3s are an essential fat also, and we don't tend to get enough of those because those are found in your flaxseed and in your salmon. The difference between, they're both essential, so you have to have them, but omega-6s can cause inflammation in the body, so we really want to decrease those in your diet. And you can do that by trying to limit your intake of canola, sunflower, safflower oils. If you're buying oil and it says vegetable oil, you would want to swap that out for a canola oil because the omega-6s can cause inflammation. And the omega-3s decrease inflammation. So you want more of those omega-3s. You want more of the fish oils. You want more of the flax. You want to limit alcohol. Unfortunately, men get 2 drinks a day and women only get 1, but those are the facts. And you can't save them up for the weekend. Obesity is a risk factor, so talk to your doctor about that. As you get older, the metabolism slows down, but it's even more important, and your risk for cancer goes up as you get older. So you want to really be cognizant of diet and increasing physical activity and maintaining an ideal body weight. They actually did a survey, and it kind of seems like being overweight is like the big white elephant in the room. No one talks about it. Patients go to their doctor, and the doctor says, ooh, you need some diabetes medication, your blood sugars are high, and he notices that your cholesterol is high, so he puts you on these medications. But actually, if you lose weight and increase physical activity and monitor that diet, you'd be able to lose that weight without the medications. But no one really wants to talk about weight. So bring it up with your doctor. Talk to your doctor. It is a risk factor that you can control. Calculate your BMI. You can actually go on the computer and Google calculate BMI and just plug in your height and your weight, and that'll give you the indicators as to whether or not you're at risk. Meat recommendations. There is no evidence that chicken and fish can increase the risk, so those would be meats that you might want to increase in your diet. Try to do more of the vegetarian meals with the beans and the nuts, more chicken, more fish, less red meat, less than 18 ounces in a week. You want to avoid the processed meats as well, the cured and the smoked meats, and you want to minimize any grilling or charring of meats. So just to summarize, the risk factors for cancer that you can control, again, from the American Institute for Cancer Research, you want to stay lean. You want to increase fruits and vegetables to 5 to 9 servings in a day. You want less red meat, less than 18 ounces in a week, and you want to avoid those processed meats. I'm going to add one more risk factor in there. We're finding out more and more that low levels of vitamin D in the blood have been shown to increase the risk of certain types of cancer. I'm cautious when I say that because most people are just kind of wired to go out and take a vitamin D supplement, but that's not always going to be helpful because high levels of vitamin D can be toxic. So get your vitamin D level checked. Next time you go to the doctor, encourage your loved ones to get their vitamin D level checked. We test all of our patients at cancer treatment centers. We test them to see if they're low. We give them a repletion dose of vitamin D, and then we retest them in 8 weeks. So it's really important that your levels stay adequate. Couple food myths. These come from the patients that I talk to every day. Patients want to know if sugar feeds cancer. It's kind of a partial truth. It's a little scary for patients. What we know is that carbohydrate is our quick fuel source. If you need to run a race, you're going to eat some carbohydrate because that's going to give you quick energy. Well, it's